Okay, we're back, guys, with more single elimination cube drafting. And let's see if this video can be more than one draft portion and one match. I've really gotten crushed lately. I'm going to start this draft off with a Soul Ring over a Mox. You can easily miss it with the, questionable artwork and stuff like that. Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the variance of Magic. So the last, I don't know, week's time or something, I've played a lot of cubes. So that would be week 3 or week 4. Kind of lost track, but whatever. I tried to get some feeder league tokens, and I got 0. The previous 2 weeks before, I played way less and got 2 both weeks. Which I'm saying that to say this: sometimes you just lose in Magic. Like if you saw my previous video, I have an awesome deck, double Mox, Tinker, Academy. But the cards just didn't, go my way, and that's just how it goes. Then I lose a close match, and you're eliminated. So basically, if you win a lot, take that with a grain of salt. If you lose a lot, take that with a grain of salt. I'm confident that my winning ways will return. With that being said, let's dive into this pack. This pick is between Retrofitter Foundry and Underground Sea for me. Retrofitter Foundry is especially awesome if I have artifact synergies. I guess you can say the same about Soul Ring. Underground Sea is, for now, speculative, but I mean, it's a likely color combination. I think I'm going to stay colorless for now and try and read the draft a little bit. Let's see if that works for me. So now, funnily enough, I have the choice between another one of my colorless favorites. It's Skullclamp. Skullclamp is even good with Retrofitter Foundry to grind out the opposition. And then there's Mystic Confluence. But I'm actually going to go Skullclamp here. I mean, my first 3 cards just go incredibly well together. I guess talking about what goes well with Soul Ring is kind of weird, but look, Soul Ring doesn't go well with, Entomb, Reanimate, or whatever, so, or Baleful Strix, for that matter. So that is something, there is something to be said about it. Let's take the Skullclamp here and see where this artifact start takes us. Like, we don't have to be artifacts, but we are for sure leaving the door open. This pack is an interesting one. Gaia's Cradle is a card I have not played with Retrofitter Foundry before, but I could imagine it's quite awesome. Then we have good old Counterspell. 4th pick Counterspell is right around that time where you're excited to pick the card, so definitely worth worth talking about. And then I feel like we have some way worse cards, basically. Gaia's Cradle, it's kind of weird, like how much you warp your deck in order to play that card, and if that's even correct to do. I just passed Mystic Confluence. I guess I can take the Counterspell here. Most artifact stuff are blue anyway, so I'm likely to be blue with this opening, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Okay. So next pack, not really excited about anything here. I think if I take the Talisman, I'm walking a fine line between speculating and forcing, which is not exactly what I want to do in an ideal world. Maybe I have to take one of these lands. Sparse Headquarters is more flexible because it kind of offers green, where Archive is just better, especially if I end up blue-white. So Headquarters gets fetched by more land and keeps me more open. I think I'm going to take that card. Pretty close pick here. Green is actually a decent shoe-in index like this, so let's take that. So, okay, blue dried up. What's the best card in this pack? It's probably Scrubland. How likely is it that I'm registering Scrubland after having no white, no black, and having a counterspell already? Kind of slim. Sort of the meek would be speculating. Maybe this is a case where speculating on a combo piece is better than taking the next best thing, which is like Scrubland or Elegant Parlor. There's also just taking Usher here and trying to be mono white. Spec on combo or spec on mono white being open. Very close. I'm actually going to spec on mono white being open. Let's see if that works. So, kind of the same deal here. Nothing for my main plan. I don't really think Mightstone and Weakstone is very good at all. Maybe if I have like the perfect, I don't know, Mishra's Workshop Kitten deck, and I see this pack 3, I'll want it, but definitely not in this spot. Maybe I just take this, like, not a grade 1, but like solid white card and keep going down this path. Okay, I think this is the confirmation that white is open. The thing is, there's also a Sheldog Isle, but I think I have to listen to the draft here and go Council's Judgment, which is better than Flicker Wisp. Removal for universal removal for everything, and especially kills annoying stuff like, Two Names of the World, etc. Okay, this pack, since I already have a blue-white fixer, I could take Teferi here. I consider Elspeth to be one of the worst white cards in the cube. I'm not going to be embarrassed to play it, but I always explain it like this. If I have Elspeth in my deck, I'm not expecting to win. And that's definitely not the case for Teferi. I really like that card. So, Teferi's added to the deck. There is a chance we're straight up blue-white, but I doubt it. Let's see. Speculate on a land or a creature that can be kind of hard to cast in my final product. I'll speculate on a land. This is my second green source. Pretty cool for stuff like Oko, Pest Infestation, and that sort of stuff. Maybe Skydiver for the sideboard here is better than the alternative. Stomping Ground. I'm so far away from that land making any sense in my deck. Let's take Skydiver. Very late Colonnade here that fits right into the deck. Taking it over the artifact stuff. Okay, that's not bad. And here's Pathar Commando. So I'm pretty well set up. Hate picking the voice here. I'm pretty well set up in White Splash Teferi. I'm not ruling out the counterspell is in the deck completely, but that's where my mind is at right now. So pretty interesting that the first white card I picked here was Usher, but that pack was bad, and my alternative was speculating on half of the Thopter Foundry combo, right? So we have to put that into context. Then I saw Selfless Spirit out of a bad pack, which is not exciting either. But then I saw Council's Judgment and Teferi. So kind of the reverse order. But that's okay sometimes. Sometimes the how the packs are built basically will lead you down that path. And here we're led down the path of a Time Walk. When I have Solaring Time Walk, I think I've seen this movie before. You get like 2-3 pieces of power, get eliminated first round, and have to make excuses, right? Let's see if we can overcome that this time. I'm trying to put a little bit of pressure on myself here. Pretty cool pack in general. I like the Shorikai, I like the Apparition, I like the Delta. Realistically, I can get one or both of those two aforementioned cards back. That would be awesome. Wow. Okay, so cool choice here. I'm not gonna go for Ursa. That's since it's double blue, but I'm gonna go with Smuggler's Copter or Aspirant. I think in a vacuum, I would rather have Aspirant in my deck, but there is a chance I can get both. There is a chance I can get both. Am I willing to try and get both? I think the answer to that question is yes. The thing is, this pack is not that strong, but I think I have a chance. Whereas if I take this Aspirant, I'm not willing anything. So I'm okay taking that chance. And now we're looking at 2 fetches. I think when I don't have Tundra or Hallowed Fountain, I should just take Prismatic Vista. That card is great. Maybe I can see Jackrabbit on the wheel. Pretty amazing start to this draft. Okay, I mean, Caracas is absurdly good. If I had the Thopter combo already, I would complete it here. With sort of the meek from the first pack plus the Thopter Founder here. But yeah, Caracas is pretty amazing. Whenever I look down my decks, I can always do some stuff on the protection side of things. And then when I look at my opponent's deck, I can always do stuff, to disrupt my opponent. So pretty sweet card. I'll take a Thalia here. I will say the card Thalia, which in my opinion used to be like a top pick for white, it really isn't anymore. So many more creatures in the opponent's decks and so many more, spells in your deck between the planeswalkers and the equipment and the vehicles, etc. So let's take the Thalia here without being super duper happy. Okay, so Stoneforge Mystic versus the Wandering Emperor. The thing is, Stoneforge Mystic is my second Skull Clamp, which might be awesome, and it might be something else before it's all said and done. Could be like Glimmerlens, could be like Batterskull. Wandering Emperor is kind of a unique card because it lets you play on the opponent's turn. It's removal, it's a clock, it's just a good snowball card. I'm actually not sure what to take here. Will I play Stoneforge if I only have Skullclamp? And I think the answer is yes. So maybe that logic tells me I should take the cheapest card. I'm okay doing that. Here's Lion Sash, which is actually not terrible, especially when I have Stoneforge. So at least this is going to be a good sideboard card, at the very least. I actually forgot about that when thinking about the Stoneforge. So now I have some good hits like Glimmerlens, Batterskull, but even now Stoneforge is just a solid value card, I would say. It's like, it cantrips into relevant piece of cardboard, depending on the situation. Now when I even have two choices, pretty strong. Wandering Emperor, I mean, I guess a double white card can wheel at this point. That wouldn't be crazy talk. Okay, so here's basically Revoker versus Touch. How much removal do I have? I only have the Judgment right now. The thing is, the Touch is just really not that exciting. But neither is the Revoker, so maybe it's okay to just take the Touch here. I did wheel both of the white cards, so we'll go with Apparition, the cheapest one. The other white card being Shorikai. Apparition, super good card. And here, we did not wheel the Aspirant. That's totally fine. Maybe I just spec a tiny bit on black here. The list of black cards I would play is relatively small. 3 Absent here, not bad, not bad. So yeah, things are looking great here. I have high card quality, good curve, double power, working slowly but surely in my mana. If I just add 1 island, I have 4 white sources, which is a bit on the lower end in order to play Time Walk and Safari. I want 5 plus, but maybe we can pick up a Tundra or Hallowed Fountain or Bloodstrand. I guess Seachrome Coast will also do. I'm not too picky when it comes to that. I feel like Ephemerate is more likely to do something here than Click. These cards don't matter. I'm going to take the unique one, and then I'm not going to take Portal out of the pack. I'm actually going to take the land out of the pack. Now I even have double Black Source for whatever the case may be. Between Concealed Courtyard and Godless Shrine. So that's not nothing. How am I doing on playables? I'm at 15 playables if I count my total minus the 4 lands and Soul Ring. Wow. Ursa Saga versus the One Ring. Ursa Saga, I have Soul Ring, Retrofitter, and Skullclamp. I have Copter Lion Sash as random, artifacts lying around for big Saga tokens. The One Ring would be pretty darn good as well, but maybe I just go for the cheapest one that just fits into my mana. And then I say, I'm going to get my 4 at some point, and if I don't, I have a very low to the ground deck. Yeah, I think I'm going to take Ursa Saga here over the One Ring. Pretty tough pick to make. Maybe I can wield the Spellbinder. That was a cool one. Okay, here's Flooded Strain versus Adversary. I think I can get away with taking this land and then focusing on my actual spells afterwards. Worth noting is the Boots is also good with Saga, but I think working on my mana is slightly more powerful. So here's Porcelain Legionnaire versus Palantir. Both are artifacts, funnily enough, for the constructs. Porcelain Legionnaire being the 2-drop that actually attacks my opponent dead. The Palantir doesn't play very well from behind, but is a good, let's call it a pseudo One Ring, pseudo Teferi type card. I think I'm going to go for the cheap creature. I wouldn't mind if anybody calls for the Palantir to be the right pick. Okay, Tundra here and nothing else, which is, tiny bit scary because I need to get there on playables. Mana Tithe versus Staff. I love Mana Tithe. Let's see, how many tokens do I have? That is a creature. No, it's not. I guess, okay, so I just take Mana Tithe here. The Staff is not good in this deck. I have, like, the Usher, the Saga, and Mana Tithe is just always awesome. I would have loved the Wasteland as well, but those cards are pretty similar, like Wasteland and Mana Tithe, in some ways, I guess. Taxing the opponents, we can get there with quote-unquote bad creatures. So my mana base is perfect. I might not even run this tap land. Then I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and an island. I have 5 blue already. Wow, Parallax Wave. Talk about, I'll get my 4-drops later. This is just the best 4-drop for this deck. Look, I get on the table with creature, creature, creature. If my opponent does the same and stabilized, I have the Parallax Wave. My opponent plays tokens, I have the Parallax Wave. My opponent plays sweepers, I have the Parallax Wave. Great, great, great card. Very, very good pickup. All right. I mean, this deck looks incredibly good. Now I just need to round out the deck and not break a ton. So let's see. Karn is good when I'm already, doing my artifact thing. Maybe Lauren is just what I want to be doing. Like, I have a lot of cards to just trade with my opponent's permanents. Touch, Council's Judgment, Aberration, Mana Tithe, Cathar Commando, Absent. Like, if I can just do that and kind of make my opponent's deck rumble, I'm super happy. Also, my creature count is not that high. It says 9 here. The sash already counts. Let's see. Yeah, okay. My creature count is actually kind of low. Let's see if we can get some creatures. So I did pass up on, let's see, or the rabbit, and I passed up on the aspirant in previous packs. Urza Saga and Smuggler's Copter are kind of creatures as well. So the creature count, even retrofitter. So the creature count can sometimes fool you just a little bit. Like the actual written creature count. Okay, here's Figure of Destiny, which is actually good in my deck because I'm only going to register 1 island. So it's actually going to be somewhat reliable, even though I have Saga and Sol Ring on top. So I like that. And I think there is one card I wanted to wheel, and that was this one. Elite Spellbinder is very, very solid. Easy pickup for me here. Maybe there's one more. The boots even came back around. I will play the boots because of Saga. So now let's have a look. I need to have one more playable in a perfect world, but I can, I can register Ephemerate, or Skydiver, I guess. I'm not too embarrassed about that. Okay. This deck is definitely something I like my chances with. No matter which tournament I was playing, I would I would snap this deck off and for sure be happy to register it, no matter the stakes. So now it's just up to, how I play in the games and the stuff we can't control, basically. But that's always the case with Magic, so I'm not too worried about that. Yeah, here we brick. So by the looks of things, I'm playing a Skydiver in my deck, which is awesome against Moxes in particular. Then it's a 3-mana, steal your Mox, produce a flyer. Here's Staff. Is Staff better? What cards work with Staff, aside from the 2 I talked about? I'm not going to run a Swamp and play Sculler, even though I like that card a lot in white aggro. Let's just quickly see. What was I checking? How many cards work with the Staff? 1, 2, 3. And I think that's about it. So it's really not that good in the deck. So I think I play like this with 17 lands, playing the Skydiver, because, something has to be card number 23. So I think this mana base builds itself with 9 plains and an island. That puts me at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blue. Well, maybe I have to play the tap land on top. Tap land or second island? That's the question. Tap land or second island? It really doesn't look like a deck that wants to play tap lands, if possible. Let me count my white sources. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That is a lot, but I also do play Figure of Destiny. Maybe I'm just not flipping the Figure of Destiny, and that's just how it goes. I'm actually okay playing another basic island here. That puts me to 6 blue and a ton of white. I think that's okay. So basically, our deck is a great mana curve with great universal answers like Apparition, Touch, Absent, Judgment. And then we just try and get there. We have some haymakers like Teferi and Parallax Wave for longer games. And tempo a little bit with Time Walk. Stoneforge, let's see, what is Stoneforge doing? Stoneforge is Skull Clamp, Boots, and Land Sash flexibility. Pretty strong. If I play against Reanimator, I have Yard Hate. If I play against, you know, control-ish type decks, I have Skull Clamp. So yeah, this deck has, you know, some aggressive elements and some longer game elements, and that's exactly how I like my white decks. So with that being said, let me submit this, and I'll see you guys for round uno. Okay, round one, I'm playing blue-white tempo, aggro, death and taxes, whatever you want to call it, and we're playing the quarterfinals against an unknown opponent. We won the die roll. And I have a good hand here, especially if I can mana tithe something meaningful turn one. Then I can kind of curve out a little bit from there. I will only learn one land drop and a play from my opponent. Well, my brain was already casting this card. That's funny. I will only learn one land drop and one play from my opponent before deciding if Thalia is a good card against my opponent, which is a bit scary. With that being said, if I go turn 2 Thalia, I might delay my opponent, but the next turn I can't go Legionnaire hold up Tithe anyway, so I think with that logic... Yeah, this is a dilemma, because I need to get my aggro on. My opponent keeps the card on top here. Can I draw anything that educates my decision? Don't think a Skull Clamp is exactly that. I will play the Legionnaire here to put on the most pressure. So now my opponent kind of has free roam. Interesting. This could be one of those games where actually being on the play is a disadvantage, because I could have mana tithe my opponent's 2-drop here and then play on curve and not worry about the mana tithe later. So it's actually a tough one to make, tough call to make if I'm supposed to go play Skull Clamp pass. I think that's a very tough play for me to make, at least. Let's see if we can... Okay. Okay, fair enough. I guess that kind of just makes my play better. If my opponent has a reanimation, I get grief twice. That's okay. I'm still winning the combat with Legionnaire. My hand doesn't care that much about getting double griefed. But my opponent could also be clearing the way for way better things than just a second grief. Let's see about that. I think my opponent pitched Liliana of the Veil. Yeah, Liliana of the Veil goes into the exile. I'm hoping this is just an unmask trying to pick my mana curve apart, but failing here. Chances are, though, that it's something to clear the way and kind of overwhelm me here. Thalia hits the bin. I'm not too worried about that. Let's see. Here comes the second grief off of a 2-mana reanimator instead of 1. That's totally fine. So the touch is basically undoing the grief. But maybe my opponent has to worry about mana tithe for their next play. Time will tell. Thanks to the life loss here, I'm winning the race. I would prefer drawing a creature, but I also don't mind, you know, killing my opponent's grief and moving on with the world. My opponent does not allow that. I draw Figure of Destiny. That's not a bad draw. So now I can go attack for 3, play Figure, play Clamp, hold up Mana Tithe, or Activation. I guess I play like this to play around Wasteland and then a play. Could see myself growing the figure, equipping the figure, and attacking at that point. Not going to counter here, even though I could have, countered my opponent's ability to churn with that card, but that's fine. Opponent staying back here. What I was saying is, Skullclamp is a card that lets me attack profitably, so I think I'm going to do that here. Let's try and attack for 6. With my opponent's no attack, it looks like my opponent has the intention to block the Figure of Destiny. I get in for 3 and draw 2 cards here. I'm guarded against Bowmasters because of Mana Tithe, so nothing bad can happen here. Famous last words. I still think holding up Mana Tithe is better than developing the Lion Sash. I don't want to give my opponent a heads up about this card. It could look like a card that could crush my opponent this game. Let's see. The downside being if my opponent finds a way to discard me again, but that's how it goes. If my opponent has another shot in the chamber here with, binning a big creature, reanimating once more, it's just the way it goes. I can shut that down from next turn. Right now, my opponent's mana is kind of taxed because of Currency Converter, because of the Mana Tithe in my hand. Here's Phyrexian Metamorph, which is a card that lets my opponent stall the game against my Legionnaire. If reanimated, I guess. For now, my opponent has access to a 2/2. Okay, Mox Pearl is probably a card that just, pays for Mana Tithe. Eureka. That is not good for me. So my opponent has one crazy good card in hand. World Spineworm. Okay. So my opponent has a World Spineworm. I have a Lion Sash. The good thing about that is I can maybe set up a situation where my opponent can't attack twice. I don't know. Let's see. Exile a permanent card. Exile a permanent card. Exile a permanent card. I now have 7 here with only one more permanent card. Maybe I'm off the race here. Let's see. I can grow this one more. That puts this to 5. That's 8 total. That's 9 with Skullclamp. So right now I'm 1 off from racing if my opponent attacks. But I guess that doesn't even work because of the 2/2 from Currency Converter. So I guess I'm clamping here. Not ideal. Let's equip. And now I'm blocking, trying to find an exile spell, or I'm attacking. The opponent could just make a 2/2 and chum block in that case. Okay. Okay. That's a lot of bricks in a row. I actually think my deck is pretty well set up to deal with a big, let's call it a naked fatty. So in general, I don't think I mind my opponent making a play like that. I will have to block here, and I think the way to go is exile, exile, and exile again to prevent as much damage as possible. I've realized there are, some number of cards that I could have played here on instant speed, but I'm prioritizing having as much life as possible. Okay. Let's see. Unexpectedly Absent is definitely a good one here. But the problem is I also need a creature to not just die to. the 2/2s. But I am happy I gave myself more life to work with. Loran is a very strong draw here. Okay, let's go. Loran, kill the converter. Super good draw. And now my opponent only has a 2/2, and I'm I think I should Skull Clamp here. Good draw. So now, question is, do I develop the Caracas? Give my opponent a heads up about that card. That's probably all right. Play that card. Absent back the worm. Take 2. But then I'm kind of stabilizing with the creatures I just drew. Both of which are clampable. I don't know. But funnily enough, I play around through the breach here with my Mana Tithe. My opponent just drew the worm. They have to pass here. Okay, so I really like where this is going. I draw that artifact. Pretty strong. So let's see what the opponent has cooking over there. Exhume. Exhuming doesn't do anything. And my opponent might play with, sneak and stuff like that. So maybe I take the worm here out of my opponent's hand. The cool thing about taking it out of the opponent's hand is it's never getting hard cast. So this is just saying you can never discard it to a faithless looting or whatever the case may be. Okay, my opponent has an Entomb in hand. Let's see. Play Retrofitter. Feel like this could be a spot where I just race my opponent. I go end step Cathar, end step make a 1/1, attack for 7. Then I can clamp away the 1/1. What's the alternative? It's like trading off with that rogue from Commando. Maybe that's better. Maybe that's better. Okay, I'll trade off here because I don't want to get cheesed by whatever, Lightning Bolt, or whatever the case may be. Blocking, staying at a healthy life total. Opponent passes. Draw a bad card. Attack for 4. So now, am I winning next turn? 3 mana untap, make it into a flyer. What if I go equip, draw 2, then I have 6 mana. 3 mana. I don't want to win next turn. I'll try and force lethal next turn instead of grinding. I think it's slightly better. The thing is, on average, I draw a creature, so it's kind of a wash, except I got further into my deck, which is better. But if I draw like a couple of lands or something, I give my opponent 1 more turn. Also, I kind of let my opponent have something like Entomb and draw that card by exiling the worm instead of the Exhume in hand. I'm not sure. So let's see. What is this? Untap. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. I mean, okay. I need to extend my thanks here. So I don't know what I was thinking. I obviously need to pay 1 mana to sacrifice, then pay 3 mana to untap, then pay 0 mana to make it into a 4/4. Wow, that was horrible. Okay, so I'm playing against Reanimator. So a card like Counterspell is interesting. Skydiver is interesting because we saw Mox and Converter, but we can't just make that an easy swap. Every exile removal is cool. You can argue that a card like Boots is not that great. Boots for Counterspell, how does that sound? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I will have to work harder on my mana here. Maybe go like minus planes plus headquarters. And even now, counterspell is not incredibly reliable. But I think it's better. So I still have, yeah, I mean, I like this. This is just saying I want, let me just answer this. I think it's better to have that upside than a not the strongest card. So what about this hand? This hand has some yard hate. This hand has, a clamp. And some stuff. Okay, I mean, this hand is fine. I will find blue mana eventually, and then I can kind of tempo a bit harder. A card like Thalia is kind of awkward here, but yeah, let's see. So the opponent is basically being junned with some broken plan, Eureka. Did I have any counter measures against Eureka that I was supposed to think about? I don't think so. I think the counterspell is just... The counterspell is just, it's not reliable, but it's good. It's good variance to have against the combo deck. Let's see what the opponent can do here. Opponent keeps their 7. So do I. I can go turn 1 Legionnaire. So if I find a land now or next draw step, I'm super happy. On a land. Land, Soul Ring. Legionnaire. So now I can get in for 3, and I think if I don't hit my land drop, I'm going to start clamping, unless my opponent gives me a very good reason to either deploy the Thalia or touch. If I draw land, I like going Sash with mana up to kind of protect against that kind of nonsense. You can even develop the Skull Clamp if that's the case. It's always good to think about your lines. Then, of course, when the opponent makes a move and you get your next draw step, things can change, but you kind of tune in your brain to be a little bit ahead, see where's this game going. Am I trying to close out the game or drag out the game? Stuff like that. Pretty fundamental stuff. Ooh, here's Imperial Seal. So it looks like Thalia could be strong against what's going on over there. So now I can go Skullclamp Thalia. Okay. Sealing. I just assume Seal is getting some unfair part of the deck. I don't like this tank from the opponent. This is something like, should I develop my Mox/Lotus or not? Maybe Mana Crypt. That would be like the hardest decision. Here's Plains. Now I can even go double creature. I feel like I should do that. Am I willing to... Yeah, I think I'm willing to tap down from Lion Sash here because we don't know if I'm guarding against the graveyard or I'm guarding against like Eureka Show and Tell type card. And Thalia should make sure that neither happens this turn. Of course, cards like, Black Lotus, etc. can kind of overcome that, but... Okay, I'm scared. My opponent does not have red mana as we speak. I'm not even sure what this is. Is this the worst Mind Twist in history? Is it a Toxic Deluge, maybe? Okay, dismember the Thalia. Remember the Thalia. So right now I'm thinking Eureka, which is probably not that bad when you're looking at my hand. So I can get in for damage here. Actually, yeah, I made a mistake here. Okay. I could have gotten in for one more damage by going exile the foothills, grow the sash, play land. Play Skull Clamp and equip. Okay, I made a mistake there. My opponent could have been at 7 here because I didn't have better plays, and I needed to keep up 1 white to actually handle the graveyard. Here's the Mox. So I think my read was correct the other turn, where my opponent thought about developing that Mox or not. This could be a Eureka. You got me. I love this opponent. Um, hmm. So I think I'll just start with the Aberration here. Battle Sphere. Okay, that's pretty cool. So let me put that one into play. That one now. I guess I put the touch. Select. I don't have any more, so I don't know what the opponent's talking about. You got me. Maybe I delayed the plan, but I don't know. So now I can kill Mox and kill 5 or 4/7. Probably just 4/7. Now let's see what the opponent can do with the Crabomination trigger, because my opponent can go for a Time Walk here if they want to, and I lose that card, so I want to cast Time Walk. That's fine, I think. No permanents in the yard, worth noting. Now it's my opponent's turn once more. My opponent has a kind of a low life total. Hmm. Super happy about, like, generally white has great cards against Eureka, Show and Tell, etc. And my hand thankfully had 2 things that did something, you know? My Apparition is good against the tokens. I'm actually racing back. Ooh, my opponent has to pass here. Not good. So I guess I'll just get rid of Eureka, untap. Okay. Nice Parallax Wave off the top. So now I can get rid of everything. And attack for lethal, with the bad thing about that being if my opponent has 1 more answer, the Crabomination will come off next turn. My opponent's hitting me with the GGs, but I'm trying to make a good play here. Kill 5 things. Threaten lethal. If my opponent has a removal for even just the Apparition, I guess they get a 0/0. Okay, that doesn't work. Can I win this game if this fails? So what happens if I go wave the Crabomination, attack with Legionnaire and Skyclave? Then how does my opponent win this game? If my opponent goes for some quad block over here, I exile 3 of them. If this dies, I'll get 2 more cards. Maybe that's Great. Okay, I'm actually going to try this without activating. Mainly because I don't want to get, I'm not going to say blown out, but I don't want to lose to a removal. There's also the case that I let my opponent commit blocks, and then I go kill this mirror, kill 2 of those. Maybe that's a good play. So I go get that out of there, get that out of there, like that. So I keep my thing. I keep 1 more turn on the wave. I don't know if this is better, actually. I'm not entirely sure. Could have gone for lethal. Yeah, please let me know if I was missing anything there. If my opponent has a random creature removal, I look like kind of a jerk. My opponent stabilizes, gets back the Crabomination. Yeah, it's tough. It's super tough. My opponent had a shot there. Thankfully, the fatties he rekit into play weren't, the top of the top, but it was still quite awesome, right? Get a 5/5, get a time walk, get a lot of power with the mirror. But yeah, I was lucky to have touched the Spirit Realm to not die to the mirror attack, and yeah, we got out of round 1, so that was cool for a change. Let's see if we can keep it up. Next up is the semifinals. I am sorry. Here we are for round 2. Nothing happened really. I played a equipment turn 1. My opponent played a mountain, so now I have to make my move here. This is the semifinals, and yeah, I like my hand a lot. So now I can go Selfless Spirit, the next turn Elite Spellbinder, and hope to have, a good Time Walk turn, where if I just Time Walk now, it doesn't do anything. Okay, Galvanic Discharge leaves my opponent with a couple of energy in the bank, but there are quite a low number of cards that can take advantage of that, so hopefully it's just a spot removal. I think now it's time to go for Tundra because I play Figure of Destiny. I know I have 1 card that benefits from having more white sources, so it would be a guess if my opponent has the Wasteland or not. If I knew about the Wasteland, I'd probably go for Island here, but I don't, so let's see. Okay, my opponent decides to Malcolm. Oh, wow, my opponent has a very bad hand here. Okay. The good news for my opponent is they can use Malcolm to fix that hand. So I don't think I can allow that. My opponent's hand is so bad. So I have to trade here. Otherwise, if my opponent gets a couple of hits in, all of a sudden, my opponent's hand is way better than it was before. So this is not the ideal use of a time walk, but I think it's okay. I'm gonna play that out. So my opponent basically has infinite mana here between the Magda coming next turn and all those lands. Ooh, Ursa's Saga, very, very strong draw. So now the question becomes, do I develop the Parallax Wave now because I'm gonna, tap out in the foreseeable future? I think the answer to that question is yes. I play a naked Parallax Wave out, which is not your, your typical play. But I'm doing it because next turn I'm making a token, equipping, twice attacking. I'm gonna be tapped out for the foreseeable future. My opponent even sacrificed Fiery Islet there, turn 3. Like, that's really a sign of desperation. Let's see if my opponent can find something like, I don't know, Dak Faden or whatever. I'm trying to think about cards that could get my opponent back into the game. I guess Wasteland is the obvious one, but they just spent their land drop. Here's Ragavan. Not a problem. Opponent holding up mana here, which theoretically, I think my opponent's hand is Misty, Mountain, 1 unknown with the Magda in exile, so theoretically could be a counter. Okay, not the best draw. Token. Haste. So I think what I'm going to do here is blink the Ragavan to get in for damage. I think that's okay. Trying to get in for 5. Brazen Borrower would be annoying. That's a card I just thought about. No Brazen. Next turn, I go get another creature, tutor out, retrofitter. I can give the freshly spawned construct haste. My opponent really needs a good one here. Fiery Confluence. Maybe my opponent has a Venser, something along those lines would be strong. Activate. I also go for Soul Ring, but I don't think that's gonna be better. I think Retrofitter is stronger. Haste over there. Now I'm getting ready to attack for 12. Can make a 1/1 or develop Copter, but I actually feel like I should develop the 1/1 instead. I kind of got the sense that my opponent had some counter magic stuff, but I don't know. Flame of Anor, destroy target artifact. Sure. So now I think I developed the Copter with my opponent tapped out. Opponent takes 5, but I think that's better than making an instant 1/1 now with my opponent tapped out. Play that. Pass. Parallax Wave is running out, but I think that's just fine with the state of this game. Here's Misty. Guess the mountain's gone as well. Mogdan Exile, 2 unknowns. My opponent needs some good stuff here. I'm putting on a lot of pressure. Here's 4 mana Magda. So now I can go Usher. Make a 1/1. Through with the 1/1. Boots on that card. Wave on that card. Trying to attack for lethal. Okay, so we took down game 1 here with a great draw. And against Izzet Tempo, I guess. Do I have any terrible cards against Izzet Tempo? Did we see anything for the Skydiver? I'm trying to think. My opponent has Ragavan. Question is basically if Staff is better than Thieving Skydiver. I think that's everything I'm asking here. Do I have any cool uses for Ephemerate? It's good with Apparition. It's good with Loran. Good with Spellbinder. Good with Stoneforge, I guess. Maybe on the draw, this is not a very good Thalia matchup. Not entirely sure about that. Maybe the staff can grind enough. Retrofitter Saga. I think there was one more card that it was good with, but actually I can't remember right now. Retrofitter and Saga, maybe that's about it. Okay, I think I just submit these cards back. Let's see if we can do it to the opponent once more. We have our mana going on here. We have a good curve. Yeah, this hand is just solid. We didn't see Wasteland in the previous game, so I'm gonna stick to the logic that I know that fetching Tundra is good in my deck because of Figure of Destiny's white requirements. Okay, Celestial Colonnade. I think it's better to play on curve and get my stuff going. Now I want to play on instant speed, basically, because of what my opponent is representing. I'm not entirely... Okay, that's actually annoying. I'm not entirely sure if Thar is better than just making a token. I think it is. Opponent gets the loot in. Malcolm is just good at a decent card. You know, it fixes your hand. Third blue. So opponent doesn't have red. We go Commando. Let's start this turn by getting in for damage. I feel like I'm supposed to Spellbinder here. I'll develop blue because there might be some kind of draws where I want to develop the Colonnade next turn and have blue available. I actually suspect getting countered here. If I don't, it's very good for me. Oh, Force of Will. Okay. I don't mind that. My opponent really needs this Malcolm in order to turn that hand into something useful. That's kind of interesting. So I can play Boot, Thalia, equip, attack for 6 next turn. That's not bad. When it discards another red card, has to pass, I draw Soul Ring, which I feel like I can free roll onto the battlefield. Soul Ring resolves. Let's go Boots first because of Thalia. Play Thalia. Equip Thalia, try and attack for 6. Play Colonnade second main. So now I'm kind of handily winning the race, and the Colonnade is even attacking next turn. So I'm actually threatening lethal. So my opponent gets one more loot in. And I feel like my opponent's sense of urgency kind of dictates that that's the move. Generally, isn't the color combination with the best combat mechanisms in it, so I'm feeling pretty good about this. Also, Thalia is shutting down stuff like Cryptic Command, which would have been a great card. What did I see last turn? I saw Galvanic Discharge. Can't remember what kind of interaction my opponent showed in that mid to late game. Maybe not anything. Can't remember. But Brazen Borrower is live. Venser is live. Cards like that. Let's see what the opponent's discarding here. Kind of unfortunate. This is just another example of... So I'm not talking about my opponent's deck. Like, I'm not saying, oh, they didn't draft Fixing highly enough. I'm just saying what can happen when you stumble on colored mana. Discarding a 2-drop on a turn where it would have been a great play. Discarding Ragavan, I'm not sure if that card would have been good or not, good or bad. But the point is, if you're not playing your cards on time, you're just losing a lot of win percentage, I guess. Because I did my things on time here, right? Well, let's say I'm sitting with like a time walk in hand, but I only have planes. That's like the same thing, right? Then I'm giving up a lot of percentages. So the ability to cast your cards is so important in Cube because everybody's gonna have like serviceable. Like I would rather go down a little on power level, but cast my stuff on time. Basically, that's like the easy way to put it. Let's see. Opponent found the mountain. Probably has one removal available. So I can Stoneforge. I'll do that afterwards. So yeah, I can Stoneforge second main, which is kind of cool here because of vigilance. So I'll try and turn the Colonnade into a creature. My opponent could have the Tidebinder here and shut off the Colonnade for good. That would be annoying. The 3/2 Stifle creature. We'll play the land here in case something weird happens with the Retrofitter. Then I'm gonna move to combat and threaten lethal here. See what the opponent's up to. Try and attack for 10. Flame of Anor. 5 damage to a creature. Okay, so I guess I make a 1/1 here. Attack for 6. Get a 1/1. Okay, that's not bad. Like 4 mana removal. I can live with that. The opponent's now dead to either of the 3/1s connecting plus the servo, which is a good, you know, it's a good amount of pressure to put on. Also, next turn I can go Stoneforge, equip the Stoneforge to spread my eggs out, so to speak. Put my eggs in multiple baskets. My opponent's really playing from behind here. Red-blue doesn't have that many, powerful creatures. It's mainly a tempo aggro, low to the ground type color combo. And my Thalia is taxing the spells, so pretty good. And also, this was not a wizard, which you could have told me. Oh yeah, that one is the wizard pirate or siren wizard or whatever, and I would believe you. But thankfully, the Flame of Anor, which was just 4 mana, kill the colonnade, and of course eat up all my mana, I guess. So the cool thing I forgot to mention is the Malcolm is now up to 3 counters. So if my opponent attacks here, they have a free spell available. Because Malcolm says, then if there are 4 more porous counters, so I guess this is a siren that's singing, makes a lot of sense. You may cast a discard card without paying its mana cost. So this is kind of where my opponent needs to turn the corner, but it costs a committed attacker that is not able to block. So probably a decent spot here for me, but let's see. Okay. I like this a lot. Opponent attacks. Here comes the Malcolm trigger. Broadside Bombardier even getting in there. I can lose here. This is pretty cool. I'm at 9. Let's see which free spell we're talking about. Fury! Okay, this is awesome. So my opponent will now clean my board. And my opponent can fling something. I'm not sure if they should do that. There's a mountain. Council's Judgment. Okay. That's not a bad magic card. Let's see. Can my opponent keep doing that? If there are 4 or more, yeah, they can keep doing that. Okay. Stoneforge Mystic. Boots and Skull Clamp. Doesn't work. Let's see. So I need to kill the what? I need to kill the Bombardier. Then I play Stoneforge. Then I can't equip with Skull Clamp. That's actually pretty big here. Then I'm not sure I should even play it. Let's see. How can I steal this game? Stoneforge Mystic. Which doesn't have to chump. Maybe that's the point. If I Stoneforge and I develop the Skull Clamp, I have better options next turn. I think that's the logic. Pretty cool that my opponent got into this game by attacking with Malcolm and getting a free Fury. I like that a lot. Lion Sash, eh? I think I have to like chum block and get into some removal next turn, but I don't know. Could be wrong. So develop the clamp. If I go Lion Sash, maybe I have something to trace with Fury. Okay, so my opponent will now put me to 1, I believe. Well played by the opponent. Glorybringer. Okay. Very well played by my opponent. I thought I was in complete control that game. Not gonna sideboard anything for game 3. Okay. Bombardier and a free Fury. That certainly turned the tides. Well played, well played. Okay, let's see if we can put a little bit of pressure on our opponent, kind of like last game, but just close it out this time. Because the opponent has some bangers if we go into the later stages. A lot of removal in that deck. And then some cards like Malcolm adds up over time. Bombardier is just awesome whenever you can cast it. And all the free stuff as well. Okay, this hand is probably fine. If I hit my third land on time, I'm pretty happy. So what am I more likely to want to do? Haste or grind? Probably... I think it's haste for now, because if I draw my third land on time, I go commando with haste, attack for 7 that turn. Yeah, I think that's the most likely. With me being on the play, I want to leverage that, and if the opponent stabilizes or whatever, I can start drawing cards. So yeah, I like this hand. If I draw my third land on time and opponent has a target for Lauren, that's obviously also great. It's pretty nice to know about the Fury, though. That card is so good. Okay, so I do find my land on time. Should I fetch? I'm okay fetching a Plains here, going Legionnaire. And then next turn, as I talked about, I can go Commando with Haste. Actually, that's kind of unexciting against a Channeler. So maybe Thalia with Haste is just a lot better, huh? Thalia. No 1-mana removal, which is huge. Now I attack with 2/3/1 First Strikers. The opponent showed Galvanic Discharge the other game, so pretty excited about this. A card like Bombardier can be a good card. Here's Broadside Bombardier. My opponent gets in for 3, and then I expect my opponent to throw the Channeler at probably Thalia. Interesting. My opponent is actively looking to make my cards more expensive, I guess. So I guess I go Commando, equip, play land, attack for 6. I'm trying to race here. Looks like with the way my opponent's playing is they just have creatures in hand. So now the question is, do I equip back or do I leave it here? I think I'll leave it here. I think it's better on the Cathar. Not entirely sure. Okay. So now my opponent kind of goes into defense mode. So maybe I just try and force as much damage as possible here. I go Lauren with no targets, equip that, attack with everybody. Let's see. Hidebinder. Okay, interesting. Because that was actually a card we talked a little bit about in the other game. So that makes this equipment useless. So now, yes, attacking with these two is still the move. Interesting. My opponent was creature heavy. They showed Fury and can't remember the Goldspan Dragon the other game. So now I feel like I should equip because if my opponent taps out, that is actually a decent situation for me that I can use the ward to survive with one creature. I think I should do it on this one. Yeah, let's equip the Thalia. So let's see if I just get destroyed by 5-drop here. Opponent's at 6 life, but with Broadside Bombardier on the side of my opponent's table, bad things can happen quickly. So by equipping the Thalia, I also make sure my creature can't die to Fury. My creature can, well, Hardcast Fury, that is. My creature can't die to Goldspan. No, not Goldspan. I forgot the name. Glorybringer. Which could come up clutch, because this is a hasty equipment, so that means my opponent will be scared about any creature just from my hand winning the game. But I think that kind of works in my favor. If my opponent is not careful enough, they lose. If my opponent is too careful, I buy time. So here is Glorybringer. My opponent can attack for 6 and deal me... Okay, so I'm just dead here. Okay, nice. I didn't think about that. Okay, well played by the opponent. Oh, oh, maybe that's okay. Yeah, I'm down to 6-7 here. My opponent just kills me. Broadside Bombardier, everyone. That card won 2 games where the opponent had no business winning. Aside from that card is incredibly tough. I guess it's not really a lesson, but this card should be taken very highly. This goes from opponent has nothing going on out of nowhere and just wins two games in a row and eliminates me from the tournament. So yeah, don't sleep on that card. That card is amazing. I imagine it's a top I don't know, top 5, top 10 card aside from power. So funnily enough, me hanging onto that Flooded Strand was actually relevant math for a while. And if I had realized that, okay, playing around Glorybringer is not equipping the Thalia, because then I just lose. But playing around Hardcast Fury was something, so I don't know. It's a tough call to make if you should fetch this lane or not. Here it didn't work out. I mean, I'm on Goose Egg, and I would have gotten 1 more draw, get in for 3, draw 2. I guess Magic Online doesn't want to show me the next 2 cards, but there's definitely an argument that if my opponent has Fury here, I'm in big trouble. So I shouldn't play around that. I should play around this card exactly and not dying, giving myself a chance. The context here being, my opponent showed they didn't want to kill Thalia earlier on, so they obviously had a creature hand and not a spell hand. So there's a lot of small things here, and yeah, small margins. We got eliminated. I thought I was cruising 3 games in a row, but my opponent showed me differently. Okay, that's gonna do it for the video. We got 2 good matches in. I hope that's okay, and I'll see you back on the channel soon. Bye, guys.